Percy with an early run, he's onside this time! It's 1-1! Andre Schürrle, it's 7! It's Mario Götze! What a goal! What a goal to win a World Cup!
Welcome to what will be the greatest show on earth, and I'm of course referring to this podcast. It's been a while since we've actually sat down and talked about football. Everything has been done, apart from Serie B and Segunda, which, you know, I personally, there's lots for me at stake there. But the World Cup is upon us. This is the Beermat official World Cup preview podcast. It's going to be a long one, so strap yourself in. My name is Stuart Quigley, alongside me is Adam Barrett. And before we get into the ins and outs of all the teams and how they're all going to lose to England blatantly, even though some of them might play England, but they're still going to lose to England.
They've already lost. Our pure power and intimidatory tactics is already accounted for half the teams in the bracket.
Do you? The question I want to ask before we get into it though is, with less than a week to go now, does it feel like the World Cup's about to start to you, or does this feel a little bit like no one's as up for it as they used to be, or is that old bastard nostalgia talking?
A little bit of everything. It's a strange one. It feels like the build-up has been going on so long, but not like getting.
Yeah, there's no momentum to it.
No, it's just like
a snowball going down a straight road.
Yeah, it's almost as long as the draw took for the actual World Cup groups. It's just like. It's like a pot of water that you just can't quite get to the boil. I mean, you can see under the surface bubbling, but you just haven't got the energy for it to go all over your hobs.
I think one of the reasons is if everyone got all their eggs in this World Cup basket immediately, and it was like, yeah, we're so ready for it, and then the first game is Russia-Saudi Arabia. That is the ultimate anticlimax. So I quite like the fact that collectively everyone seems to be a bit, we'll give this a week, lads. You're alright.
Yeah, see how it goes. Also, maybe there's no one great team in this World Cup.
No.
There's great players, which is going to make it a more interesting spectacle because you're not quite going to know how it's going to unfold. It's going to be a lot of close games. But
whether those close games are ultimate 0-0 Grecian Mourinho bullshit or all-out craziness.
Yeah, and I suppose it's summed up by the England team itself. It's okay, it's decent. He's already gone full circle like this World Cup preparation. Already written off as terrible, and now kind of as the tournament's got closer going, actually it's not as bad as before. Still not great.
The way I've assessed England's chances, and we'll get onto this in a bit more depth later on, is quite simply, we've had better squads, but are we going to have better chances?
Yeah, it's almost, that cliche of it's come a little too early, I think, for this team. But yeah, I mean, the climate's good. I mean, it's not going to be in a England favourable climate for the next 2 World Cups, wherever that will be. So yeah, sometimes you've got to take your chances when you can, but this kind of lack of excitement so far, it doesn't mean I will not be trying to watch every single game I possibly can.
100%.
And Super Saturday is already in the diary.
Oh yeah.
4 games of varying quality, but still the same attention.
Yeah, you say 4 games of varying quality, but the thing is that like if we spend 4 games, you're talking about the excitement going on an upward curve. If the beers flow on an upward curve, the excitement for those games, by the time you get to the 4th, it'll be the greatest game you've ever seen.
Definitely. Get yourself down, Asda, for a couple of 24 packs.
Yeah,
and that'll get you through.
Yes. The other thing, you made a quick mention actually about the next 2 World Cups and not necessarily being in English favourable climates, or specifically the next World Cup might not be in anyone's favourable climate, but I was thinking about when it comes to the whole grouping World Cups and my own memories of World Cups and like the modern era, if you want to call it that. Because I think in domestic terms, eras come and go very quickly. But I still think in international football, you can say like it's a good like Spain's domination, before that France's domination. We're in now Germany's sort of period, as it were. And I would say the first proper modern one is probably 2002, maybe 2006.
In terms of a domination of a team? In
terms of, if you go back to 98, which is the first one that I really, really remember, it looks completely different to what you even remember it looking like.
Yeah.
Whereas you go back to 02 and 06, they at least look like what you remember them to look like.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I remember '94, and that is kind of that's kind of a little.
That looks like a different sport almost now. If you go back.
Saudi Arabia won games.
Well, yeah.
That World Cup, it was a different time.
But like sort of fast forwarding this on 02 or 06, whichever one works for you, up until now, and then you've got the next couple, and is it 2026 when they're expanding it?
I think it's 2022, isn't it? But definitely will be for 2026.
Okay, so either way, because I think 2022 is sort of a write-off anyway. If we think that the build-up has been sort of not exactly whooping and hollering, then...
There's been a build-up, of casualties.
Yeah, quite literally, yes. And the thing I wanted to say was like, this is a really weird thing to say before a ball has been kicked, but you know, we're in the business of finishing off things before they've even started. Yep. In that regard, I actually think this World Cup in about 10 years will be looked on more favourably, purely because it was sort of the last one that is this way.
I can see, I mean, with the expanded team numbers, definitely, and I think in terms of technology, I know they've got VAR in for this World Cup, but I'm sure there's going to be stories about it being terrible during this World Cup. But in 2026, it'll be fine-tuned, working fine. There'll be other technological advances implemented, which we don't know about yet, which will happen. Yeah, so I can see that point. The ending of a mid-decade, early century era. So
like, for as much as what we're saying about it now, in the preamble, in 10 years when you've got like the talking heads, I can't believe this happened to a 2018 World Cup presenter on BBC 7 or whatever, there'll be probably one of us going, oh man, it was great, we love this, we're so up for the Russia World Cup, it's unbelievable.
I hope so. I agree with your point. I could definitely see it being a watershed. Not that we'll know it during whilst it's happened, but you know, it's one of those you don't know until it's gone. It'll be like until 10 years time when Donald Trump is president of the world.
Donald Trump will actually be in the World Cup in 2026.
Yep, and there'll be 3 pageants per game.
Yes, fireworks displays during half time, and also everyone in the stadium has to turn around and say why they're thankful for Donald Trump for being there.
Yep.
Even Donald Trump has to turn around to himself.
Yep.
It's amazing.
And then he can pardon himself if things get wrong.
Jeez. I think with that we need to walk away seamlessly into what is the group previews. We're not going to get into like predicting the round of 16 quarters and semis, and I think we'll try and just wrap up the groups when it comes to the round of 16 when it's officially confirmed. We'll be on that like we want to go to the pub and get some drinks and talk about football. Sounds good.
It is a sacrifice that we make on your behalf.
Yes, it's true. The things we do for the listeners, it's unbelievable. In that regard then, I mean, there's a couple of groups of dross, Group A being one of them, with all due respect to the teams involved. Is there anywhere else that catches your eye immediately?
I think in terms of the groups where you kind of got stories in there, I mean, there's no group I think that kind of jumps out and go, man, that's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I need to make sure I've booked my holidays for this day, because this group stage matches, they're all going to be good.
I mean, there's ones which are going to be close. For example, Group H. It's not the most, you're not going to be thinking it's the most exciting teams. You're going to like cancel your anniversary to go and watch one of these games. But it's going to be a very close group, and I think you could make an argument for any 4 of them qualifying.
Yes.
I mean, some more than others, but I think it's not so ridiculous that one team you just write in now, bomb.
Do you know what's going to happen as well? We're sort of discussing this off air. Guarantee you as well, at your relative or respective workplace, after one of these games, someone that doesn't follow football is going to come up to you and go, oh man, I thought that game was going to be shit, and it turned out to be really good.
Who would have known 2 teams with players of moderate ability would be able to? I mean, I've said you can't call it a combat, I'll call it LB Japan. But I don't think it's going to be so outrageous. And then you got Group C, you think is going to be an interesting battle for second. Which is a whole different thing in itself. And then you've kind of got Group B, which is an interesting group. It's an interesting game, which is like in the first round of games in that group.
It's interesting as well, because you say about it's an interesting game. It's the first game as well, where both sides will be like, oh, can't lose this one. So it might then come down to, which would be good for sort of entertainment value, that being a draw, and then it coming down to how much can we dick on the other side.
Yeah, like that last game goal special, and then kind of we'll come on to it in a moment, but one team would have a definite advantage over the other in that last round. But then you kind of got interesting games rather than interesting overall groups. I mean, I think Group F, Germany, Mexico, again another game which is first up in the group. You'd hope it's going to be a good game, and then you know you got your obligatory annual 4 yearly game between Argentina and Nigeria in the World Cup. I mean, get your World Cup bingo cards printed out now for the mentions of Nigeria's kit, which is, it's going to be made at least. I think you get a full house on just that comment.
Yeah.
Or based on England's game on Thursday, they're just going to hope that there is somebody sat behind the manager who the camera could just pan in on every moment there isn't any football going on the field. So yeah, in terms of groups, I don't think there's one where you kind of go, man, this is going to be awesome. Every game's going to be brilliant. It's going to be interesting games, and then kind of, good games, and then just kind of scraps and battles for seconds, I think.
Okay. What we'll have to do then is, because obviously we're saving England till last, is I think the easiest way to do it then is go in with Group A, and then we'll go from there in depth until we get to the end, and then we go, yeah, right, that's a good hour and a bit's worth of talking, but England is still going to win.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, spoiler alert, it's coming home.
Yes. In fairness, every World Cup goes home because it goes to where they win it.
Yeah, we go home. Yeah. Just a bit earlier than everyone else.
Right, so we mentioned Group A, the opening game, Russia, Saudi Arabia. Interestingly enough, I don't know if you saw this yesterday, Germany played Saudi Arabia in a warm-up game, and I do think this says more about Germany than necessarily Saudi Arabia, but 2-1, not as anywhere near as much of a walkover as you would have expected.
And Saudi Arabia should have had a penalty in injury time.
It's really hard to get carried away with the result that I think was very much sort of Germany in, not even, it was almost reverse gear almost.
Yeah, and it's an interesting one with Saudi Arabia, because mentioned earlier, World Cup 94, they went on they beat Belgium in the tournament, they went on a little bit of a run, got out of the group, so that's like the high point. Then you remember, funnily enough, against Germany in, I think it was World Cup 2002, when they lost 8-0.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the version of Saudi Arabia kind of in the minds of people at the moment, bunch of clowns, can't play football. But then the results from last night suggests they're not quite as bad as they thought, though they had their interesting tactic of sending most of their players out on loan to clubs in La Liga, and then none of them playing. Yeah,
I've got actually a write-up here of players to watch potentially, and one of them here is Fahad Al Muwallad. Exactly the same scenario as you said. Went to Levante, didn't really play so much, but supposedly he's really quick, which is on a World Cup stage. There is actually a point I want to delve off here, but there is an even better jumping off point, so we'll leave that for now. As far as Saudi Arabia are concerned, does it help the group they're in though? Because if this was any other group, it would be a bit of a case of oh well, you've got no chance. The fact that they've got 5% of a chance will be enough for them to go, okay, then at least we're not dead in the water, and the proverbial provide some surprises. That Russia game, I mean, it's not exactly hallmarks of France versus Senegal, but I would not be surprised in the least. We'll use this as a way to jump onto Russia, but for them to lose this game or to not win this opening game wouldn't exactly surprise me.
No, I mean, in terms of ranking, Russia are the lowest ranked team in the tournament. Not a lot expected from them. It's not a great team. So, yeah, so there is going to be a bit of nerves from Russia first game up. You've got to be thinking, your host nation, first line of business, don't lose your opening game, and that brings a bit of pressure in itself, especially when I'm sure the cameras are going to cut to pictures of Vladimir Putin in the stands looking stern at every opportunity, so there's a bit of pressure there, especially from a Russian perspective, because the other two teams in the group are the more difficult teams in the group. So knowing we need to get that confidence going early on brings pressure in itself. Saudi Arabia, they're going to be thinking, it could have been a lot worse.
There's sort of nothing to lose. I mean, there's still a long way to go for them, even if they do get something against Russia, but you only need, in tournament football like this, you just need that little spark and it gets you going.
Yeah, especially early on.
And speaking of sparks that get you going, you've got Egypt, Uruguay, you've got Salah and Suarez. Is Salah going to play at all? Because I've got a funny feeling that his injury is actually worse than it's being reported, but if they don't take him, the whole morale drops so low that there's enough reason to take him, even if he's not going to play.
Also, I think you take him, put him on the bench, and if you can get 10 minutes, do I think he'll start against Uruguay? No. You get to include everyone in your squad on the bench anyway, so he'll be there. But I'd agree, he's clearly not going to be fit. Maybe the last game in the group stage for them is 26th, I think, of June. Maybe enough time to get a half out of him, or maybe with intensive training if they need a result. Their last game against Saudi Arabia, if they need a result from that game, you think,
just throw him in. There is the alternative way of doing this, and it's not necessarily the clever sports science way of doing this, but it's just a thought. And the only way you can know this is like with actual medical information that we don't have, we're just speculating, is if you're saying to me the best you're going to get out of him is a half, I'd be tempted to throw him in the first half against Uruguay. Try and get that game in a positive fashion, and then once you've got 3 points in the bank, you only need 3 more from 2 games.
But then I suppose if you're doing it first half, then you've got to leave the rest of your team to defend the second half if you're getting called off. I mean, doing it the other way around, it's like when Roger Miller played for Cameroon in the 1990 World Cup. He never started. They used to throw him on second half, and like he was obviously scored a few goals, as you may have heard on the grapevine.
So yeah, Mo Salah's very much like I had rumours that he's been scoring goals.
He's got a couple.
There's very much potential, and we've seen this with Liverpool as well. The focus on Salah and the inclusion of Salah, it's not so much the damage that he does, and the damage that he does is very obvious. It's the fact that so much attention is on him, it'll allow the other players to sort of go under the radar, and if he's not there, they're not going to have as much space to exploit.
Yeah, he's been made so integral to the way they play, and that must affect the morale of the other players. Like if he's not there, because their whole system for at least last year has been get the ball to Salah. If he's not there, you'll be like, oh man, we got no chance.
It really is an interesting. You said, there's going to be certain games that are going to be important to see how teams set up. This Egypt-Uruguay game is because we've said about like Egypt want to get off to the fast start, Egypt want to not lose. There is a way of like them setting up for the win or the draw here, and you don't really know what you're going to get in any sort of sense. It is a bit of a shame really, because with the whole Salah injury, in the sense I was really looking forward to this I thought before this tournament started, or before the injury rather, that these were the 2 teams that are going through from this group.
Yeah, you'd certainly think in terms of overall quality. I mean, the Salah injury obviously has put another dimension on it. In terms of who's going to qualify from the group now, you'd expect the integral game is going to be Russia v Egypt, on the expectation that Uruguay will qualify, you would think. And then that game for second. I
think that's fair enough, and also the case of like and it also helps Russia in a sense that like whatever Egypt are planning to do, Russia sort of aren't a part of that because it's the middle game.
Yeah. So intriguing games in that group. Again, another example of probably the heavyweight game being in the first round of fixtures. From World Cup perspective, just got to hope the first game isn't terrible.
I really do think we're all set up to see 0-0, and if it's 1-0 after 20 minutes, we'll be like, oh, best World Cup ever. Yep. It's amazing. Alternatively, 0-0, worst World Cup ever.
Yeah. Let's call it now.
I'm safe to say I don't think the winner from the World Cup is coming from this group.
No.
Yeah. I do want to mention just quickly, because we spoke about all the other 3 teams in Uruguay, is it possible that they've reverted back to their 2010 state of like under the radar and can actually do some damage, versus when in 2014 everyone was looking at them as a potential winner?
Yeah, I think they have gone a little bit back to 2010 expectations, partly because of the group. Their ring hasn't really been gathering much attention, so by extension Uruguay haven't been gathering much attention, and they've just been quietly accumulating players who are good playing for big teams but not exploded on that stage yet. So yeah, I think they can make a run.
Yeah, the whole point of what happened in 2010 was they were in a group that wasn't like the greatest of all time in terms of like quality. South Africa, obviously, they were in a group with the host nation again, so that's already parallels there. They're definitely going to do it. And also a France side that was batshit out of its mind. So all they had to do then was they got out of it. They just went on the run, and then some outfield player handballed it. It was good times all round, apart from for Ghana.
And the thing with Uruguay is on the expectation that they get through the group, whether they come first in the group or second in the group, if Group B goes to expectation, they're going to have a cracker at a game in the second round.
Yeah. Do you think that when groups are set up like this, does that help or hinder in the sense of like, if you've got an obvious we need to finish first because we want to avoid these, or it really doesn't matter who we play?
I think you probably don't go too much into the theatrics of we want to avoid these teams in other groups, because you never know what's going to happen in other groups. But I think in terms of if you end up knowing if you are next door to a group whereby if you come second and the other group is next to you, it's just got one really good team and the rest crap, so you're probably going to be playing them. I think it does focus the mind. It must do. But then I think the flip's going to be for Uruguay. It doesn't really matter because they're going to be playing you would expect. a very good side in the second round.
The only thing about that though is that if you've got 4 sides collectively thinking that of Saudi Arabia won't be caring, but the issue for me would be if you've got a scenario whereby 1 and 2 doesn't really matter, that might lend itself to a lot of draws, a lot of games where no one's really that pushing to get the win so much.
Yeah, true, because you're kind of thinking the World Cup cliche, just don't lose. Could this be the group which gets decided by drawing of lots?
Potentially.
That old school World Cup special?
Basically, what ends up happening is that we have a scenario whereby we get to the last game and anyone that hasn't been bitten by Suarez is immediately eliminated.
That's true, they were not obviously alluring enough.
No. We'll move on then to what we're saying about this group lining up with the next group, Group B. Portugal, Spain, Morocco and Iran. Obviously the 2 powerhouses there of Morocco and Iran, far and away the best. Oh no, wait, it's the other way around.
I've said that you think the top 2 are probably going to be Portugal and Spain. But saying that, I would not be surprised if Morocco did a number on Portugal.
I was wondering if you're going to bring this up actually, because I think we're talking about Saudi Arabia being able to ride under the radar a little bit, and in the sense that they have more to play for than you would normally think. If Morocco were in a different group, where it's some snide football hipster like ourselves would be like, oh, do you know what, Morocco got a little bit about them.
Yeah.
Morocco could quite easily be this time around Algeria in surprisingly exciting, take the nation by storm. Also as well with the sort of they won't get 2026. There's a sort of sense of could we be arriving at the sort of peak of Moroccan football? And yeah, I think a lot depends on Portugal's actual attitude.
Yeah, I've got a sneaky feeling this Portuguese team is not as good as perhaps been made out.
I didn't think they were very good in the Euros and they won it.
Yeah.
Do you remember that group stage? How they got out of that group stage?
I remember it was pure carnage.
It might have even been Iceland scoring in the other game that sent them
through. They were the same group as Hungary, weren't they?
Yeah. And that was 3-3, I believe, that game against Portugal.
Spot on, Gira.
They didn't win a game, I don't think.
No, they jammed it. See, on paper, they've probably got a slightly better team now, but no, I have a feeling that they won't get out of the group. But I don't know what it is, I just don't have a positive feeling about this Portuguese team. But then saying that, as in Euros 2016, I don't think anyone did then.
No, I think the thing for me is that when they got out of the group stage, they had a very much a single mindset of okay, this is what we've got. It's not a lot, but we're going to have to make the best of it, and they did. Again, this lends itself to the other point I was going to talk about when I talk about Saudi Arabia, but I'm going to leave it. In the end, I will get there, just like Portugal at the Euros. But the whole point is that if they go into this World Cup with the attitude of okay, we'll handle Spain first, and in a way that does actually help them, I think, because it already puts them in that mindset. It already puts them with the backs up against the wall.
Yeah, you got to get going early.
Yeah, even if they draw against Spain, right, they get the result they wanted. If they coast against Morocco, they could find themselves in a position whereby it's harder than it should be.
Yeah, I'd say so. Portugal, Spain, obviously the eye-opening early game, but Portugal, Morocco. That is going to be
That's a key game. You look at the actual Morocco side. There are players in and around there that you recognise. It's not football being as global as it is now. There's no real way of you talk about the '94 World Cup. It's who are these guys? Yeah. Where did they come from? That doesn't happen. Even the smallest sides now is heavily scouted. But you've got Ziyech playing for Ajax. Belhanda, you got Saïs from Wolves, and obviously Benatia from Juventus. There's a core of players there that at least play at a high enough level for you to go, oh well, hello. They're not going to be in awe.
They can't be underestimated.
No.
Even I think Iran are going to be. We're talking about in Group A, Saudi Arabia, thinking this is not a bad group we've ended up in. Iran, probably a pretty difficult group for them. They're a decent team. They're not terrible, but this is not the group.
The problem
for them,
Iran have for me is that it's not even the lack of quality. It's the gap between them and Morocco is too big.
Yeah, I mean, I think if they would have been in a different group, they might have fancied the chances of maybe not qualifying, but still been in the race.
If you swap Saudi Arabia and Iran, the Saudi Arabia-Morocco match suddenly becomes really, really interesting.
Iran Russia does as well.
Yeah,
but they're saying that not through. World Cup '98 when Iran played USA, that was explosive. Iran, Russia, they just talk about explosives after the game.
But yeah, I think because as well, like we're talking about Morocco and how they're going to try and plot their way through this group. And the number one way they're going to try and plot their way through this group is by absolutely dicking Iran. They have to do that. They have to sort that.
Yep, they have to kind of get some momentum before probably their key game in the group, the second round against Portugal.
Yeah, so, and also as well, things only have to go slightly wrong for Portugal in the game against Spain. Morocco beat Iran, then all of a sudden you're looking at potential elimination.
Yep, England 2014 all over again.
The pressure gets on very quickly, yeah.
Out by the second round.
5 days they were in it. 5 days.
What a 5 days it was.
Yeah. I've had like 7 days of hell, but that was like 5 days of like, even worse than hell.
5 days of head in your hands.
Well, 5 days of Roy Hodgson, I think that's all we need. Yeah, that's all anyone needs, just to have enough.
That's the title of his sex tape.
Jeez. Even David Attenborough wouldn't watch that, and he's used to watching animals go at it. We've spoken about Portugal, like overall their potential attitude, as it were. But like in terms of the squad, you've got Ronaldo, and you said they've got a better squad than they potentially had before.
In terms of attacking play, I think defensively they're a bit.
Which is ironic, given how they won the Euros.
Yeah, it's kind of it's the same defence pretty much as won the Euros, and it wasn't the youngest back then.
Yeah, I'm looking at the actual squad list now, and some of these defenders, it's like Jesus. How'd you manage it?
Yeah, I mean they had a good record in qualifying to get through. Obviously, I suppose if this was Qatar, where the heat would be a factor, then you'd be asking completely different questions. Russia probably slightly cooler, so maybe the lack of pace, shall we say, of their defence may not get as exploited as it could have been. But even then, depending on what happens in the first game against Spain, if they get a schooling.
Yeah, I think the thing with Portugal is the blueprint is already there for them. They get through the group any way possible, doesn't even matter, and then try and make you run from there because they've done it before.
Yeah, they say you learn from experience. Portugal just learned from what Greece did to them.
Yes, no, I agree completely. The whole idea of like failure is a motivational tool for learning. It's like that's never been more well illustrated than Portugal in the Euros going, hang on, we've got a shit squad that is really well set up. We've got one player in attack that's really much better than the rest of us. Shall we set up with everyone beyond the ball to play to him? That seems familiar. Oh wait, that happened to us in 2004.
Man, they greased it up good.
Indeed. Obviously it's a two-group team, if you want to call it that. We've said and alluded to the fact that there's probably less that than you'd think. I mean, it's still likely that Portugal and Spain go through it. But the one team that we haven't mentioned, Spain, then. Almost a similar sort of sense in Uruguay, in that no one's really eyeing them up quite as much as they should.
In a situation which may, in 4 weeks, look incredibly stupid and foolish, I think Spain are going to win the World Cup. They're the ultimate extension of no one's really rating them, but you look at that squad list, you look at the players, they've got the best squad in the tournament, I think, along with Germany. They're the top two in terms of squads. But
no France in there.
France are France, though. Yeah, you just never know actually what's going to turn up.
Here's an overall question, and I'm going to ask the question, then sort of answer it and see what you think. So it's more of a statement than a question. I think you're saying about the top three teams being France, Spain and Germany.
In terms of squad quality.
Right. Yeah. I think a lot of the reason why the overall quality of the squads are being rated as they are is not so much where the respective squads are now, but the ceiling for where these squads could be in about the next 4 to 8 years. Like everyone's thinking about, especially with the France squad, where this squad will be then. I think Spain are the closest to the finished article.
Yeah, I would say, we'll come on to France in a bit, but if you're going to compare those two squads, France and Spain, in terms of quality, France is definitely maybe a squads. Spain is morning glory.
Okay, I like that. It's a good metaphor for it. The only thing I would say is that if Spain are going to do well this time around, we need to see more out of, and I don't even necessarily know how they're going to set up. So I might even be doing a disservice to a player that's probably not going to start as much as I think. But Diego Costa has to turn up this time.
Yeah, it will be interesting whether Spain do kind of do a variant of the old false nine system that they've had a couple of years ago. But I think they will do well.
I just look at that midfield and I'm like, there aren't going to be many games they're not going to control.
No, and I think obviously if they get smashed by Portugal first game, this is all going to go to the runes. But statement performance against your local rivals, get yourself set early on. You win this group, you fancy your chances against a team that you get it in the second round from Group A.
In a similar sense that like in Group A, no one's really asked where they finish. in this group, you kind of want to win it.
Yeah, and then you're on it from there. I mean, I think we'll come on to France in a bit. They've got the right type of manager, Spain, for the type of squad they've got. You know, kind of, he's brought a lot of players through from the youth system where he was manager previously, so he's kind of got that belief and buy-in from the squad.
Next up, Group C, France, Australia, Peru and Denmark. I think in this group we're going to get the big guns out of the way first, and the big guns are the France squad. They're talking about the difference between Spain and France. It is this simple, like Mbappe might be that guy, we don't know. No. Dembele might be that guy, we don't know. This could be the tournament where they become that guy.
Yeah, I have a feeling that this is, in terms of like quality of individual players, France have got players of better individual quality than their equivalent in the Spanish squad. I would agree with that. It's just in terms of blending it all together. I mean, the contrast with Spain, I don't think this is the right manager for this squad of players. I don't think it's going to be as bad as 2010 that you mentioned previously, where he just completely fell off.
In fairness, he was picking players based on star signs.
They've got a very favourable group to kind of get the train out of the station, as it were.
Yeah.
Going towards that, you know,
France
second round.
feel to me like the first side that we've actually been able to talk about that actually have for a mistake.
Yeah. It always used to be said about Holland. Individual quality,
Can they put it together?
Yeah. And well, Holland can't even qualify for tournaments now, which is you know, from a neutral perspective, slightly disappointing. But France are kind of the closest we got to that. They're just one small incident away from it all going to shit. And with the chips down, I mean, they won't get tested in this group, I don't think. So they will coast through this group. Second round, you're thinking the team they're going to get there, they're probably going to go through comfortably. So they're going to get in a situation where they're in the business end of the tournament without having really been tested.
And that can go one of two ways.
Yeah.
Either you've still got your best to come, or alternatively, you haven't been able to get into your best shape yet, so you just get one punched out.
Yep. With this France team, I don't have confidence they won't be the second one.
Okay. In terms of like the rest of the group, you're talking about it, and I actually think that without actually naming a side specifically just yet, I think the schedule favours the side that I think will finish second. And because of the fact that we think France will sort of coast through, the fact that Denmark are playing them last, where France may already be qualified, may have sort of eyes off the ball, rest a couple of players maybe. I mean, Denmark, it was theirs to have anyway, and I think this is just sort of not quite sown the seeds and definitely got it done for them. But I just think in international football, in a World Cup, something as stupid as simply having the games lined up in the right way is all you need, and Denmark have got that, I think.
I say so. I mean, I think Peru, Denmark, it's going to be a good game. It's going to be an interesting game. Come on to Peru in a minute, but for Denmark, definitely, it has worked out well for them in terms of that draw. So you're thinking that they are, you know, the most likely team to probably come second in that group, and you know, it's just one of the days. They've always been, well, I say always, from about 1992 when it was the Euros. They've always been a solid team, decent players. There's a question of they've got one star player really. You know, Eriksen. He's kind of the main thing that pulls the strings. It's just always the same questions with the Denmark team. Is it always round to have decent players, nice solid play? Where are the goals?
I mean, in fairness, they can win this World Cup if every team adopts Ireland's tactics of letting Eriksen do whatever he wants.
That is true. I mean, I think they'll be studying the tape to see if the other teams have a similar tactic. But I mean, that demonstrates. I mean, Ireland played it to the hand, but you know, I've just mentioned where the goal's coming from. If you give them the opportunities,
they will do it.
Yeah, they will smack you.
Yeah. Denmark for me though, obviously with like, the heavy influx of European qualifiers as it is, Denmark are one of like, I'd say maybe half a dozen, probably not that many, but a lot of sides that you just, before the tournament even starts, you pencil them into the second round and no further.
Yeah. And I think this time round, he's going to be second round again, depending on what goes on in Group D. But
as far as Australia and Peru go, I think Peru will surprise a few people. I think
they're decent. I mean, I think a couple of those teams in the group will regret consenting on the appeal of the captain Guerrero to come to the World Cup.
Especially in the fact of like, if he's gone through all this process, he's going to be so up for this tournament now.
Yeah. Sometimes a nice thing can bite you on the arse. Yeah. And I think this will happen to at least one of the teams in this group.
I know you can bet on everything these days, but like, if you could bet on top scorer in the group stage or top scorer in a specific group, I wouldn't be adverse to each way against him. It'd be long odds, I would imagine, and he could go off.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you've got it each way with the other two teams in the group, Australia, Denmark. I mean, you expect a couple of goals.
Yeah,
eventually.
So, and as far as Australia are concerned, I think they're almost a reverse Peru, which sounds like a really bad sexual position in the sense that like everyone thinks, oh, Australia, the sporting nation and the prowess that they have in other things like the Olympics, the cricket, the rugby, etc., etc. I'm not expecting ball tampering in this tournament, I must say.
Well, to be fair, if they get a hold of the ball, why is it stuck in the crowd for a throw-in? What's that little whiz of air that I hear coming out of it?
Oh, it's Deflategate.
Man, what's Stephen Smith doing in the crowd? He's meant to be playing in Canada.
Jeez. I think Australia are going to sort of, and the fact as well, and I don't mean to like rag on him too much because obviously he is a national treasure for them, but constant irritant for me. The fact that Tim Cahill's still buzzing around there makes me go, I'm not so sure.
Well, the fact he couldn't get a game from Millwall, which is like a celebration of scumbags, you can't even get in there. I mean, I think seriously for Australia, it's probably the weakest Australia team since they've switched conferences and started qualifying for the World Cup. So. Yeah, I'm not expecting too much.
It's not a terrible midfield looking at it, if I'm honest.
They're not terrible by all means, and if you want to be in a group of other teams that are not terrible, then this isn't the worst group in the world for Australia to be in, but I anticipate they will probably come bottom of this group.
Yeah, I just don't see where, like, unless Aaron Moy has an absolute stormer, I just don't see how many goals they're going to score.
Yeah, well, that's going to be a problem.
Whereas even like Peru, you can point to the fact that like they're probably going to get something because your man who was quote unquote on drugs might play like he's on drugs. Imagine if he got drug tested during the tournament. Jeez.
Especially if he failed it.
no thanks.
That'd be brilliant. He went for a pre-match drink with Diego Maradona.
Jeez. That's quite good though. Speaking of drugs and Diego Maradona, we link nicely to Group D, which is Argentina, Iceland, Croatia and Nigeria. The aforementioned almost annual, even though the World Cup is every 4 years, meeting between Argentina and Nigeria aside. I quite like this group from a wackiness perspective.
I think it's going to be a decent battle for second in this group. I mean, you can make a case for all three of the teams coming second. I mean, if I was going to put my neck on the line, I'd probably say Croatia.
Here's the thing about this. I've been stung by Croatia before, and I think we're now at a point where, like, do you know how England kept getting to like quarters and that, and it's like, no, that's not. They need to go one step further, and it's like this golden generation is shit because it can't go that. Like Croatia and I think Belgium are the other side that like they have this really good collection of players that just can't seem to get over the line and really go far. Like I think was it '98 Croatia's first World Cup.
Yeah.
Like that collection of players wasn't as good as this, but yet they were seen as more, and maybe that's due to like the lack of knowledge in world football.
That's a very good individual, like Sacco, Prozadecki. That was like their great, probably their historically, just because it was their first World Cup and they did very well. The last World Cup they were terrible after being expected to do well. So yeah, I mean, there's kind of a bit of pressure on them. Especially being as Iceland are not going to be intimidated by anyone.
And that's the game I'm looking for. One of the games I'm looking forward to the most in the group stages because it's a side. It's a proper FA Cup game of a World Cup game, which is incredible.
Last game in the group stage as well.
Yeah.
So the flip of some of the other groups where the first game is going to be probably the better game. This is in the last round of fixtures. Iceland, Croatia. That could be.
And also as well, in boxing terms, if you're going to have a sort of David versus Goliath clash first off, Iceland taking on Argentina, we talked about if Portugal get through Spain, if Iceland can somehow get through Argentina, they don't even have to like draw it or win it. Like if they just get through and not get banged, there's no scenario. It's really hard if Argentina like go to town and win like 6-0 to like sort of dampen that enthusiasm for Iceland. And even then, I still suspect they'd be like, yeah, fuck it, we're still going to win the other two. But if they could somehow get anything from that game, then oh my word, I fear for the other two in this group.
Well, Argentina, they do occasionally, proverbially, do what is known as dropping a bollock in the World Cup. So, opening game, Iceland, if they do fall under a roadblock, it does make things a little. They've got Croatia second game.
Yeah.
If Croatia turn up against Argentina, I mean, this is frantically pulling these straws trying to get Argentina out of the tournament early on, and I would laugh so much if Argentina did not get out of this group. Bold so you can't see it.
No.
but yeah, I can see it. It's like a game of Frogger. You can see the other side.
Yeah.
Can't
Can you get there? Yeah. This is the point where actually when I was talking about Saudi Arabia, I was going to move on to this point. When I was talking about Portugal, I was going to move on to this point. Now we've arrived at the point that is easy for me to talk about this. I could have done it the other points, but just this is the easiest because I didn't want to go back on myself. Success in international football is so heavily based on your manager. You can have the best players in the world, and Portugal have the best player in the world, arguably. Argentina have the best player in the world, arguably. And Saudi Arabia don't have very good players, but if they can collectively as a unit and the manager can sort of do what he can. Look at the last Euros, last international tournament, what Conte did with that, the worst Italy squad of all time, supposedly.
Yeah, it certainly makes a massive difference, especially in international. I think we touched upon this point in previous podcasts, especially in international football where you don't really get together with your players that much. If you can have a tactical tweak that's just slightly out of the norm of how everyone else is playing, then oh my god.
Yeah, it's not that you have to be the best actual tactician. Like the best tactician, the best tactics manager isn't necessarily going to win it. It's about getting the best, what you can get from like your squad level versus what you get out of them level.
Yeah, that buying level.
The manager that gets the most is probably the team that's going to win the World Cup, I would say.
I think in terms of if you're kind of in that group of 4 or 5 teams who can win the World Cup, then yeah. I mean, I don't think you get a team like Saudi Arabia getting 110% buy-in to the manager's methods. I don't think they're going to win the World Cup.
There has to be some sort of like match up with the quality, but like it's somewhere in between.
It will make a difference, definitely. Which is kind of why previously we're touching upon France. Yeah, you're not convinced you're going to get that buy-in.
Same with Argentina, I think. I really, I'll go to bat for this to the day I die. Lionel Messi is not only the best player in the world, he's the best player to have ever played the game. To even bracket him in the same terms as anyone else, even Ronaldo, is slightly insulting to football.
I think it's a conversation we could have, we could have hours and hours of podcasts.
I joked about it and I said it's insulting to football. Obviously that's like hyperbolic, but like football opinions, hyperbole, who knew, right? Yeah. The only thing I would say in that is that like what you would call Ronaldo stands have the Euros that they can point to.
Yeah, I mean, I never agree with that simplistic argument of, he won the Euros and Messi's never won an international tournament, therefore Ronaldo is better. We've kind of touched upon a point, it's kind of who gets the buy-in for the system, for the tactics, and I think that in terms of quality, who's the best? Who's better in terms of like technical quality, aesthetics? Who would you rather have in your team it could be a completely different question. I mean, I think in terms of football moves on so fast, it's difficult to talk about a best player of all time because, in different eras, kind of different things. In terms of, my thoughts upon the Ronaldo, Messi debate, I'll get my fence nice and warm and comfy. They're different players. Yeah. I mean, you play, the teams which have them in play differently to get their strengths out of it. So it's obviously not black and white. You obviously get different. You've got hardcore Ronaldo, hardcore Messi. I think in terms of if you're trying to build a nice team dynamic, who would you rather have? You'd rather have Messi because Ronaldo just strikes us as a bit of a bellend, so you wouldn't want him in the dressing room. But in terms of sheer will to win, if that's your attribute, your value, you're probably going to go Ronaldo. But in terms of Messi, no, I don't think you can have that as a determinative factor. He's never won a tournament. It's like, there's 10 other players on the
the whole thing of like Messi not winning a tournament and Ronaldo winning a tournament, that boils down to Eder blamming one in from 20 yards inexplicably and Higuain missing a sitter.
Yeah, and Ronaldo wasn't on the pitch for the game, so you can't directly contribute.
I think as a tangent, the best argument to use here in comparison with the Messi-Ronaldo debate, as it were, is LeBron James versus Michael Jordan. And I think this is why the debate rages so much, is because when you're talking about LeBron versus Jordan, it's two different eras, and you can't separate them. Whereas Messi and Ronaldo are playing at the same time, and that's what's harder to separate the eras, because they're both, even though they're completely different players, because they're simply existing within one another's time space. That's why it's so sort of fuel to the fire. I will say this much though, as bad as it was watching Ronaldo win the Euros, if he somehow manages to spawn his way to the World Cup, that will be like, the example I would give is that like, I don't think anyone could beat Jordan ever. And yet I saw what LeBron's been doing this summer, and they've just been beaten 4-0.
Yeah.
And if he got them over the line, I probably would have had to hold up my hands and go, do you know what, I think he might be the guy. If Ronaldo gets this Portugal side to the World Cup, I still don't think he's that guy.
I would say if this Portuguese team win the World Cup, in a large part because Ronaldo, you would have to put that over the edge. Especially in a comparison between the quality of the Portuguese team overall and the quality of the Argentine team overall. Argentina's got a much better team, I would say, than Portugal. So we don't know what tomfoolery will occur along the way. But if Portugal win the World Cup, you have to give Ronaldo that edge. Jeez. Luckily, I don't think that's happened.
And I was going to say that sound you hear is me breathing a massive sigh of relief. It is funny though, because we're talking about like managers and other factors and team and quality and this and that. Because Ronaldo and Messi are 1 and 2, regardless of what order you put them in. And yet, neither of us fancy Argentina or Portugal to go that far, I don't think.
Argentina have got lots of attacking quality, which is demonstrated by the players they're able to leave out of the squad, let alone the players who've got there. And you look at the potential run they may have, you'd expect them to get through their second round game. And then, you know, quarterfinals.
It's a different tournament once you get to that stage.
Yeah,
as well.
It's kind of who can deal with that pressure, really. Quarter-final, you're probably looking at you playing Spain. You would. Bit as I think Spain are going to do well in this tournament, do I think Argentina are going to get past Spain if that comes? No, I don't.
Yeah.
Especially because they struggled to qualify for the tournament. You got to run the tournament fine. I'd say Argentina are going to go further than Portugal.
They are quite poised to go far in the sense of like Iceland, Croatia and Nigeria, while they're not hard challenges, they still represent challenges for them.
It gets you in a nice rhythm, a nice warm-up.
I want to just do a brief touch on Nigeria in the sense of like, after they've finished cleansing themselves of playing Argentina for the 5,000th time in a row, have you seen anything of like them recently in the friendlies that they played to suggest that they probably can beat Iceland?
They could possibly. I haven't seen a lot from them, to be honest, which demonstrates that they're going to do much in the tournament.
It's one of those where you're talking about clutching at straws where we're trying to get Argentina out. You could easily say if Croatia don't turn up and Iceland and Nigeria is a one-off, something could happen.
If it's a situation where if Nigeria get a result against Argentina go out, then obviously I am all aboard the Nigerian train. I may even go on eBay and spend £500 on a Nigeria shirt. Bingo number 2, get that in.
Yeah.
But no, I just don't think they're that good.
We'll move swiftly on to Group E: Brazil, Switzerland, Costa Rica and Serbia. I think in the last World Cup, Costa Rica surprised everyone by topping a group that contained 2 European powerhouses and a South American side. I don't think this is going to be the case again.
No. They're in a decent place, Costa Rica, to be fair. I mean, obviously they got to the last 8 4 years ago, so confidence is high. But we were saying 4 years ago that we didn't think they'd get out of the group, and then they went on a run. So in the risk of tempting fate again, they're not going to get out of the group. You know, I don't think they're certainly going to disgrace themselves. They're going to be close games. They may get a point.
It's a harder scenario for them this time around because every side you look at is stronger than the side they played in 2014. England had Hodgson, Uruguay had no one but half-fit Suarez, and Italy was just garbage.
I would say it's the flip this time round because 2014, you're looking at those teams, England, Italy, Uruguay. The matchup before the games, you'd be saying, the other team are miles better than Costa Rica. They got no chance. You know, who are these jokers? They haven't qualified for a World Cup for a long time. They're going to do nothing. They had the classic underdog position.
That was on paper though, rather than the actual reality.
Yeah, but on paper, everyone's saying they've not got any chance before the game.
I still think you're going to get that.
I don't think it is as tight this time round in the sense that I don't think really, are you going to say Switzerland and Serbia are that miles better than Costa Rica, so you got no chance at all. Costa Rica to go in those games thinking, we've got a chance here. They're not that good. You know, we're going to have a go. I mean,
I feel like penciling in a lot of draws for this group.
Yeah, I think there's going to be.
I'm quite glad Brazil are in there to add some quite literal Brazilian flair because.
I think, you're going to think Brazil are going to get at least 7 points in this group. only because they might already be qualified by the final game against Serbia, so may rest some players.
Snide tip to basically find out whoever scores the first goal for Brazil and then just load up on him to be top goal scorer in it, because if you can get going in this group, you will really get going for the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of Brazil, a very nice group for them. In terms of the other teams, I don't really mind if it's Costa Rica or Serbia who comes second in this group. I just hope to God it's not Switzerland.
Okay.
Because the amount of World Cups where they jam it through out of the group. I mean, there was the classic 2006 where they got knocked out without conceding a goal. That's because they just put everyone behind the ball. They're not very good. They've had a good record in qualifying to get through here. They're in the top 10, I think, of the rankings of the teams in the world. Let's fuck them off early on. Let's get Switzerland out. They contribute nothing. Get them out. I don't even care if Costa. I mean, I think come on to Serbia in a minute. Switzerland, they seem to they qualify for most Euros now. They qualify for most World Cups. Can't really remember any game involving Switzerland in any tournament, because I can't. Apart from that 0-0, which is the worst game of all time.
I remember that one. I remember them playing. Don't even remember the opponents, but I know they got knocked out. And it was Shaqiri did nothing and then scored an overhead kick from the edge of the box.
I mean, yeah, Shaqiri's obviously their flair player. They got Johan Giroud in centre back. Come on, get him out. I remember in a World Cup I won some money back in Switzerland to win a game, and that is the contribution.
That's it. That's all they've ever done.
They're great. I mean, going to Serbia, I'd rather Serbia did something. I mean, they are the definition of a batshit mental team. They've got players of immense quality. But looking through their runs to tournament qualified, they drop some almighty howlers. The defence is optional sometimes in some circumstances. You never know what team's going to turn up.
They've got Mitrovic, so you never know how many red cards you're going to get.
Exactly. If he's had a very good, obviously, second half of the season in goal scoring touch, getting Fulham promoted. He could quite easily score a hat-trick against Costa Rica in the first game, or get sent off after 5 minutes for elbowing someone in the head.
Or you could do both.
Yeah, exactly. You just don't.
I'm not sure he's fitting in the hat-trick in the first 5 minutes, but
yeah, let's get some entertainment. Let's get on that.
This group does need that kind of mental, absolute craziness.
I hope so. Let's just get Serbia on that bandwagon.
Okay.
Or if Costa Rica gets 7 points again, qualify from the group.
Fair play to them.
Yeah, fair play to them.
If Costa Rica do it again, right, I think Qatar 2022, we need to just whack some money down on Costa Rica to win it, because they get too close.
Switzerland aren't in the EU, but this is why we voted Brexit. Just get rid of Switzerland.
I love the fact that it's the easiest thing to say of Switzerland, the most on the fence nation in the world, and you're the most off the fence for them.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, before I started this podcast today, I didn't anticipate I'll be going on such a rant about Switzerland, but
I like it. Sometimes when you have a couple of beers, the unexpected rant comes out, and this is apparently where it's gone.
In conclusion, Switzerland boring.
I'm fine with it. Next up, there's 3 groups left, and we've got Germany, Mexico, Sweden, and South Korea. What happens when you read through all the groups like this? You tend to find there are certain patterns, and this is very much another pattern of one team that's probably going to win every game, and then a 3-way battle for second.
You'd think so. Though, again, an example of a first round game being probably, hopefully, the most entertaining, interesting. Germany-Mexico. I think that's going to be a good game.
Do you know what? It's not quite as vitriolic as your rant against Switzerland, but I keep being told how Mexico are really entertaining in World Cups, and they've only turned up for my reckoning in 2 games.
They do always lose.
Yeah.
They never really get very far. I think it's just more kind of everyone thinks the passion of the fans from Mexico 86. They managed to get from there. Yeah, I would agree, kind of slightly overrated propensity for attacking play. Always an interesting team to watch, if not necessarily entertaining.
No, I think obviously because we'll do this from the top down. We spoke about Mexico. They've got Germany in the opening game. You said, what do we make of Germany? Because I was fine with Germany, and I can't ever write them off again. I can't, because I've done it too many times, and then they turn up in the semis.
Yep, I think solid squad, one of the best squads in the tournament. They have it's just rolled off the cliches about Germany, is it? They have a system, they're efficient, they know what they're doing.
Do you know what the thing that really tells you everything you need to know about Germany? Which is this. And bear with me because it's a point on a point, so I'm not. The initial point you're going to say something, but I'm not talking about that.
Man, you're leading with the left, and then you're coming in with the
right.
right.
Yeah, defo. The whole fury about Sane being left out he's being left out for tactical reasons. If things start to go slightly wrong, slightly, not massively, because it's Germany, how massively wrong can it go? It won't be like the biggest deal in the universe, whereas if England left out a player of his quality, or had a player of his quality to leave out, on game one it'd be like, oh, this is why, and the idea that like as a nation they're not going to shit the bed because there was a controversial leaving of a player out tells me like everything's in good hands here.
I think that demonstrates the difference between England and Germany in terms of quality. England could not even contemplate leaving a player out like Sane. If he was English, he'd be first name on the team sheet, quality, getting him in there with Sterling. And the reasons why he was left out, very German reasons, very efficient. It's like he didn't play well for Germany, he doesn't fit in their system. I
think that's the big key point, that everyone's like missing out when they're having a shit fit about him being left out of the squad. And also it gives you an idea of the like English and German relations to tactics. It's like, if the manager's going, he doesn't fit in my tactics, it doesn't really matter.
I think also in terms of the other, I think it was him and Julian Brandt was kind of like that decision when they went with Brandt. The coaches that kind of went, Brandt played better for Germany, and I suppose that's kind of, sometimes that kind of works. Sane's young enough, you'd think, to work his way back in for Euros.
And also as well, his form is like good enough, so like he's right there now. What's to suggest that like if we're having a panic attack about him not being in there, does that tell me that like he's going to be shit in 2 years? I doubt it.
No, I mean you would think he's shock horror. I don't know him on a personal level, but it sounds like he's got that mentality. He'll go away, work hard.
Compare his reaction to being left out to like Jack Wilshere's and that.
Yeah, and Joe Hart, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I think kind of Wilshere's reaction to being left out. I personally don't think Wilshere should have been in the World Cup squad. I think it was the right decision to leave him out. But I don't think it's fair to pillar him for going on Twitter and saying, I think I could have made a difference to that World Cup squad. What was he going to say? Actually, I'm a bit shit. I never should have gone.
I think he don't say anything, but for the comment he's made, there's nothing wrong with the comment.
No. What I think, I contrast to Joe Hart, who deliberately leaked stories to his mates in the press prior to the squad being announced, basically saying, oh, David Moyes, he's ruined it. David Moyes didn't make you play shit.
Yeah.
And it wasn't as though it was a situation whereby Hart had been playing all season and then got dropped 3 weeks before the end. He was the starting goalie, he got dropped because he was crap. Then he got another chance and he got dropped again because he was crap. I mean, he definitely should not be in that World Cup squad. No. And I think it was a very petulant reaction from him. And he was talking about, oh, I got the experience, I got the passion. You were one of the players before we were playing Iceland in 2016, banging their chest, oh yeah. You were terrible in that tournament.
You can't turn around and go, I've got experience, and then you look at his CV of experience and it's all bullshit.
Yeah, I was always, until very recently, of a view that Hart was a decent goalie worth taking a punt on. But especially in terms of, round about Euro 2016, I think that's a little bit of a question mark about his involvement in the squad. I was like, okay, he should be. But since then, in that last 2 years, he unfortunately, did not a lot for Torino, and he was a bit rubbish for West Ham.
Yeah.
So he shouldn't be, unfortunately.
For me, in my head, he's been finished for a while, so I'm more than happy with the way it's turned out for him.
I think, unfortunately, he's talking about he should be in the England squad. I've got no idea what club he's going to be at, what club wants him, let alone play for England.
Here's a random bullshit question for you, and I know you're going to be more generous to him than I would, which is why I'm not going to answer. How many World Cup squads does he get into?
Joe Hart?
Yeah.
Oh, I think he'd probably still get into at least half.
Okay, fair enough.
I think. I mean,
I just love the idea that he's left out the Costa Rica squad as well.
Well, he wouldn't be first choice for Costa Rica because Keylor Navas.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
You probably still.
He needs to pen 34 more terrible letters. Yeah. Even though there's only 32 teams, he needs to pen 34 letters.
He needs a backup. Look, I mean, unfortunately, I can't recall the name off the top of my head of Costa Rica's third choice goalkeeper.
I'm going to suggest he's better.
Well, I think if he is, then he might.
I don't even care if it's the man from Del Monte. I don't even know if the man from Del Monte was Costa Rican. I would suggest he's from Del Monte.
Well, to be fair, Joe Hart in that scenario should probably go and play like him in Papua New Guinea or something.
And probably still be third choice.
Yep.
Yeah, it's fine. Back to Germany. Back to a side with more pressing concerns than what they're going to talk about or leak to the press with David Moyes. Fairly straightforward for them in terms of actually getting through. And we said like cliches, semis. If they got knocked out in the quarters, like, how big of a shock would it be before that?
I think it'd be a bit of a shock. I mean, I think in terms of this group for Germany, there's no whipping boys in this group, but so it's a group for professionalism. Of course, of course, you know, so you're going to get yourself through. So you're looking kind of second round teams for Germany on the assumption they've topped the group. You would probably expect them, well, you expect them to beat them.
Yeah.
So then you're looking in quarterfinals who could be a delightful combination of, well, depending on how the run goes, you could be playing one of England, Belgium, Poland, Colombia, one of them. Again, you'd expect Germany to get through there. So yeah, anything quarterfinals below, you would be disappointed from a German perspective, because even German teams that are very good, such as the World Cup 2002 team, still get to the final. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, for them,
I'm just not allowed to write them off anymore. I'm not doing it to myself. Like, you fool me once, they fooled me like at least 5 times.
Yeah, it's just always that, you know. I just remember that from, you know, Badil and Skinner saying you can't write off the Germans. They wrote it off, but you know, in terms of football on the pitch, no, you can't write them off. So you're expecting them to go deep. You're kind of thinking they're looking at hotels during the course of July. Let's put it that way. Yeah. You'd think for Germany.
So we spoke briefly about Mexico. Have they got anything to sort of substantiate the idea that they're the obvious choice for second place, or is it a case of just like more so the idea of they're a traditional, every cliche we spoke about them from before?
Well, I suppose if Zlatan turns ultimate Zlatan then turns up to Sweden, Mexico to play for Mexico, then you're thinking definitely maybe Mexico for second. But
there is going to be a really interesting point where like Mexico are playing Sweden and like Zlatan's doing like the MasterCard ads in the middle.
Yeah, he's, you know, and he's come out saying he should be at the World Cup, and he's blaming the Swedish press who, you know, not being Swedish, but I didn't realise they were that powerful. Zlatan, but obviously they are. You know, that's the final game of the group, Mexico, Sweden. You think that's going to be the game to decide who's going through second in this group? Yeah. You would anticipate. I mean, Korea will have a decent performance.
In much the same way of like German efficiency, I expect the Korean efficiency to be there, but at a much lower level.
Yeah, you think they're going to put up competitive performance in all of the games?
They probably won't get dicked in any of the games, but they could conceivably lose all 3.
They could conceivably lose all 3. I could see them getting a couple of points.
Yeah.
I just can't see them qualifying.
No. One shout on Mexico just quickly. Having Lozano getting some big sort of hype around this is the tournament where he breaks out. PSV, potential links with the Premier League.
Yep.
You didn't hear it here first, but you heard it here first.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you know, I bought him for my Villa team on Football Manager 2016, so I've been aware of his progress for a while. So
basically, it was all you, is what you're saying.
It was me. I had the faith to bring him. He wasn't at PSV on the game. He was at his previous Mexican team. I believed in him then. I'm going to believe in him now.
Indeed. As far as other players that you could look at, you look at Sweden. You've got Gudetti again.
Yeah.
It's the fact that he's the guy that's there after all this time. We joked about Zlatan, but the fact that he's not been usurped at this point. Yeah. So yeah, fair enough. Forsberg as well. I mean, he's been talked about getting a move now for a couple of years. He does actually strike me as one of the kind of players that, like, if he has the proverbial good World Cup, he gets that sort of extra $1 million move. You're not supposed to buy after the World Cup, but he's in that bracket.
Well, yeah, it's definitely moving season during the World Cup, isn't it? I mean, you know, even circumstances. I remember 2002 where Gary Breen's getting talked about to move to Inter Milan.
Yeah, because he's available on the free, wasn't he?
Yeah. So I suppose, if you're actually got some quality, then you get yourself a move somewhere else if needs to be. But, you know, Leipzig isn't exactly the worst place in the world to be.
No.
So far. So you're only going to move for an upward curve, and Leipzig are going to get a good fee for that.
It's true, actually. And also, as well, from one Red Bull to another, you're talking about the South Korea squad. It's interesting, actually, that this is probably one of the first squads that has... I said about the idea of the unknown in international football these days, and what, with scouting and the idea of every league is pretty much broadcast, so what do you not see anymore? And I look at this squad and I'm like, oh, there is actually sort of a relative bit of unknown here. Some people that know, like, sort of Asian football will be able to tell me all the ins and outs of these players. But, like, you're looking at Hwang Hee-chan from Red Bull Salzburg, who I intimated, Song Hyun-min from Tottenham, Ki Seung-hyung from Swansea. After that, it is very much a collection of Asian footballers.
Yep, and I suppose there was always a circumstance in the World Cup whereby the unknown... These have a bit of surprises. I mean, especially they got Sweden first up, and Sweden their players are more well known, but they're always a case of the group being bigger than the individuals, kind of the team being more. So in terms of South Korea, a bit of the unknown. Maybe, I think especially for Korea, you got to be marking that game. If you're going to get out of the group, you got to be getting something against Sweden. Especially, to earn the disapproval as Zlatan is definitely, a victory all in itself.
Right then, we're going to skip a group because obviously we're leaving England to last. The Group H, which we spoke about earlier as the most open group in... a lot of these groups there's a side that you definitely know is going to win it, or there are two sides that you know are going to get through, you just don't know in what order. This, as we said earlier, you could genuinely make the case for any order of any sides.
It's the most interesting group out of the four. It's going to be tight.
Poland, you would say, are better than the rest, but not by too much.
I mean, if you're going to go for it, you're probably on the old proverbial form, but you're going to go Poland, Colombia, topping those two places to get through to the next round. But you never know. I mean, kind of Senegal have got players such as Mane in form. Japan have kind of made a slightly different, crazy approach by sacking a manager 10 weeks before the tournament and getting somebody else in.
It's all about that Alan Pardew new manager bounce.
But yeah, I mean, luckily Sam Field isn't Japanese. Otherwise, that'd be...
He'd be shitting it. He would be shitting it for this tournament.
Man, that first game against Colombia, he'd definitely be shitting it. Just be the tightest group, I think. I mean, Poland, obviously, Lewandowski, the main man. There's indications he's going to be leaving Bayern in the summer. So, I mean, he doesn't need to put himself in the shop window because his goods are already well known.
Yes.
But decent performance in the World Cup won't hurt.
Usually speaking as well, when players are on that sort of cusp of a move anyway, whether they need to put themselves in the shop window or not, it tends to sort of happen almost automatically. I remember Henrik Larsson absolutely banging one in. I'm not sure if it was World Cup or Euros, but that period just before he went to Barcelona, and it was like, yeah, you're good anyway, but like you could keep going.
You're extra good.
Yeah.
So I mean, the players' first game for Poland against Senegal, obviously dangerous game. So if you get yourself off on the early leaderboard with a few points. I mean, Poland were a seeded team for the draw. I think they are the seed, like the number one seed in this group, and they're probably thinking, we got no benefit of being a number one seed here. But where's Panama when you need them? But
it's the same for sort of any this group. A lot of the teams that aren't Poland could have been swapped into any other group to instantly make those groups harder.
Yeah, and to be fair, if you get out of this group, you're not going to be too worried about the team who are coming next in the round of 16, because you think about, well, I actually play some decent teams, and so you kind of already.
Also, as well, I was going to say, you're going to have some sort of idea of what you're doing in a squad as well at this point, because if you've played 3 solid games, you'll be fine.
Yeah, and hopefully you've been in a position where most players have got a game who you want to get a game, most got minutes.
The question I would ask is, you've got Kagawa and Okazaki, who are sort of the main men for Japan. You've got a similar squad sort of balance in Senegal, in that Japan and Senegal, they have squads that will put the work in, well drilled, even if Japan not necessarily under the manager for a long period of time. But with Senegal and Mane specifically this season, he knows what it's like to be that high profile. I mean, Okazaki, yes, he won the league with Leicester, but I don't see him as that guy so much. And Kagawa, even though they've all got the quality, I just don't know if they can sort of lead a team as much as you would suggest Mane could.
Yeah, because Okazaki is kind of he's a support act, really, to the main man. Whereas, I suppose to an extent this season, Mane has been the support act, but still kind of previously in his career, in terms of when he was at Southampton, used to being the main man. So you kind of think he would enjoy that thing on his back more than Okazaki. It's just a shame Alua isn't Japanese to play up front with him.
No, yeah, definitely. Yeah, and then you've got Colombia, who, much like Uruguay actually, have almost gone full circle in a sense that they were last tournament rather, Uruguay, South America side. James Rodriguez, I'm not calling him James, I'm just not. Coming out of the...
Jimmy R.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Good old Jimmy R. Coming out of the relative obscurity of whatever big club he was at before. Was it Monaco? I'm pretty sure it was Monaco.
Yep.
Yeah, and lighting it up. And now, this time around, it's sort of it's not a given that they're going to be that good again, because I think, obviously, with it being in Brazil last time, that gave them perhaps an edge that they won't have this time around, but I still expect them to be more than competent, which is pretty much what you would expect of this group, full stop.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose I would expect Colombia to get through, but it's going to be a battle for them. they were under the radar a bit in 2014. And they are still a bit under the radar again. I think it's because of the group they're in. No one's really talking about them. So they could do something out of the group, you'd think. And, they're going to be a difficult opponent for anybody second round.
Yes.
Depending on who they're playing.
That's the weird thing is that, even if you would say to me that, the relative squads are all about the same level, if you're playing a European side in the second round that isn't one of the traditional big guns, you feel quite comfortable. If you're playing a South American side, even if they're one of the weaker South American sides, you're like, oh shit.
Yeah, because there was always that element of the unexpected.
That's fair enough. So with all that done then, we're going to link it back to second to last group. Just actually on Group H, I'm going to go stretch my neck out here and go Senegal and Colombia.
For Senegal, as we've said about a lot of other teams, all about the first game. They've got Poland. If they get a decent result against Poland...
Oh, I do feel like it's a prediction that will be shot to shit within half an hour, but
Well, for Senegal, they've got Japan's second game, who you'd probably say are the weaker team in the group. So if they've got something in the bag first game, that is going to give them the momentum moving forwards.
As I say, I am very much looking forward to this game being the group that surprises most people that don't watch football about how entertaining it is.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a decent one.
Every game will have something on it.
Yeah, I'd say
which is not something you can say for pretty much every other group, to be fair.
Well, no.
Moving on to the group that obviously matters the most in Group G: Belgium, Panama, Tunisia, and England.
England.
Yeah, you could basically feel the enthusiasm burning through your audio earphones.
To be fair, love's got a world in motion.
And hopefully that can see us through.
Yeah. Where's John Barnes when you need him? He's getting round the back. And to be fair, we're recording this at a drinking establishment, and he is trying to sneak in round the back because he's been denied entry.
I think the obvious way to start here is with the lesser lights of this group, Tunisia and Panama. Tunisia, for me, I remember when the draw was made, and it was literally a 50-50 shot between England getting Tunisia and Senegal. You throw Senegal in here, and this group is suddenly a lot harder.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think England, out of those two teams, have done well to get Tunisia. It's going to be a rerun of France 98. First game up, England-Tunisia. Not the easiest game. A nice competitive game. You expect England to win.
Probably the easiest of all the African sides to play, I would say.
Yeah, you're looking at the others. Senegal, Nigeria, Morocco,
Egypt.
Yeah, so you definitely got the easiest one, and especially when as though England were relatively comfortable winners against Nigeria in a warm-up game. They won't be too worried about Tunisia, you'd think. I mean, I think Southgate was in the World Cup squad for '98, so he'll be able to recall on his history.
Given the fact that the old Saudi keeper is like 40 years old, I'm looking down this Tunisia list to see if there's anyone that's still playing.
Yeah, it's the same squad from '98.
Sadly not. Yeah.
They're just brought it back. So yeah, from England, obviously, the run of fixtures has been quite kind to the Panama second game. So even in the worst case scenario, if they balls it up against Tunisia, you'd expect them to get 3 points against Panama. If they don't, then I was going on about Switzerland, get the fuck out. England just quit before the final game of the group stage if you can't get anything against Panama.
I've heard about declaring when you're like 500 in front, but this is like declaring when you lose.
Yeah,
Stop Belgium getting the bonus point.
Take the defeat.
Yeah.
Take the 3-0 defeat.
I think for me, in terms of like you're talking about Tunisia and Panama as being obviously the way the group's lined up for England, the worry for me is that if that Panama game becomes a 0-0 after beating Tunisia, I can see it coming a mile off.
I think even if it's a 0-0 draw, then England have got no right to be in this World Cup.
The thing about Panama as well is that, like, I spoke before about how certain games are like set up almost like an FA Cup tie within a group stage within the World Cup, so it's very convoluted. But Panama, England is your stereotypical side that no one thinks has anything. It's a question of patience and breaking them down. And when England aren't 3-0 up on like the 5-minute mark, everyone's going to shit themselves.
Yeah, it is the ultimate example of this. I mean, England played Trinidad and Tobago. I think England won 2-0 with 2 goals in the last 10 minutes. This is like the more extreme version of that, I think.
Alternatively, if you want to go like exactly what I'm thinking, it's Algeria 0, England 0. A game that I was so delighted in retrospect to be absolutely paralytic for. Please drink responsibly.
That was probably one of the worst England games I've ever seen. Which is quite an achievement considering how many terrible England games there have been.
It was the worst England game I've ever seen, and I didn't really see anything.
No, and to be fair, that worked out well for you. The bits you did see where like a precursor for your brain just shut down.
Sometimes when you watch a trailer and you see, oh, I'm never going to see that film. I watched the first 5 minutes of that game and it's like, nope, I'm checked out.
Yep, then let's get back to the bar. From the England perspective, I would say the question for this group is going to be, you'd expect England and Belgium to be top two. It's going to come down to
that would be, I would say it would be earth-shattering if England and Belgium aren't the top two.
I think it's going to come down to goal difference who tops the group.
Potentially, yeah. Do you think the draw in the last game as well?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a draw.
I don't mind that so much because sometimes, I mean, I'd say, I don't know what the split is. It's probably like 1 in 4. But you know when both teams are through and like 3 out of 4 times the game's shit because they're already through. Yep. But like every now and then you'll get a game because the pressure's off. Maybe you've got some reserves in there that need to prove themselves for the latter stages. You get an entertaining game. And I do think, because Belgium said very specifically, they were like, oh, we hope England are already through as well as us when we come to plays. Because I think it could actually be a quite entertaining game of two teams going to each other of going, neither of them are outsiders. Both have been tipped to do things because they're England and because they're Belgium with the squad they've got. They're not among the favourites, but they've got their highlights, as it were. So it might be one of those instances where two sides of relatively, not high quality, not the highest quality, but high quality, actually like go at it. Unlikely, but possible.
Yeah, I mean, you can see that. If both are through, pressure's off, as you said, playing a few reserve players. I mean, they're probably, in terms of second round opponents, you're thinking doesn't matter a huge amount whether you come first or second in the group. Then it makes a difference for the quarter final, but then you're kind of thinking, how far ahead can you think?
Yeah, I really don't think you can plan that far. You can plan for second round maybe, but you can't plan. And also, sorry, you can't even really plan for second round because our games will be taking place before theirs.
Well, I think that a fun jamboree, the final game against Belgium is probably, I think it's taking place after the finishing games in Group H.
Really? How's that work?
I mean, I am relying on a schedule which is not on English time. But yeah, I think, you're not too worried at that stage. Second round, get yourself through, don't get dipped by Belgium. I'd take that final game, England v Belgium, 0-0 after 90 minutes. They play extra time. David Platt comes on, scores in the last minute, 3 points England.
You know about David Platt from Coronation Street?
To be fair, he's been through a lot. He's the type of character.
Yeah, he's shown some steel, yeah.
He's hard edge.
Yeah. In terms of like, you could talk about the other two teams in the group. We didn't mention Panama and Tunisia, but it's really a case of like, I think both sides will surprise both the other sides in how not jobber they are.
They're not terrible teams by any means. Competitive, you've got to obviously give them respect, and I think Tunisia Panama will be a fun last game on the basis they'll both probably already be out by then. So it's going to be, they will want to get a result from it to demonstrate that they've achieved something in the World Cup. Panama obviously haven't been in the World Cup, so get any positive result.
Yeah, it's not even necessarily positive results for Panama. It's positive like anything. If they get through, it sounds really condescending, and this is what you get when you get into the realms of like David v Goliath kind of games in this. But it's like 5 minutes into the England game, they're not 3-0 down. Whereas we're like slitting our wrists and going, "This is the worst thing ever." They're absolutely like cheering to the rooftops.
Yeah, we're shit. Saturday manager. Where's Jack Wilshere?
Jeez, I wouldn't go that far. But like, I think if you were to set up any of these games, I don't want to like set England up on a back foot, so I'll just say Belgium, for example. But if you said to me that like Tunisia or Panama went 1-0 up in the first 5 minutes of either game against the other two, fuck me, does that set up the rest of the game?
Tunisia 1, Belgium 0. I'll take that early
Tunisia, Panama win the World Cup. Together, they share it.
I don't know it. You
don't know how we get there.
But you're like an episode of the Hurricanes. And the final, one's getting battered. The others come on like for a 22-11 man split.
I'd have money in the bank, but that's very different.
Yeah, man, to be fair, it's the ultimate rumble.
Okay, then in that regard, we've gone through every group now, and we can't go through the round of 16. We'll wait till we get to that point, and we will wait till we get to the latter stages to talk about the latter stages. You said Spain to win?
Yep, that's my gut feel at the moment.
Okay. Do you have a final four, or is it too easy, too early to go with that?
Spain.
Given the fact they're going to win it, I would suggest yes.
You'd think Brazil. I mean, I'm not entirely sure how the draw pans out off the top of my head, but you think Germany.
Yeah.
And then I'm just frantically looking for a team on the other side of the draw. Probably think France.
I think that's probably everyone's four at this stage.
Yeah, I mean, it's good. It's not a controversial choice, but kind of based on the quality of the respective teams.
There's always something in the World Cup that gets thrown up. I mean, if you took the respective Final Fours from the last couple, there's usually someone in there that out of the blue.
Yeah, especially World Cup 2002. I remember, like Turkey and South Korea.
Yeah,
we were in the semi-final.
And then you've got Uruguay who were in the semi-final in 2010.
Yep.
2014, who was in the semis? Argentina, Holland, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Jeez, how times have gone.
Man, those great. That's when Van Gaal was in charge. He was on the crest of a
Oh
wave.
yeah, because he brought on a goalie for a penalty shootout, so he was amazing.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, okay. But yeah, basically what I'm saying is there's plenty more bullshit to look forward to that will provide. If you were to pick not a dark horse, because like we've gotten to a point now where like everyone's a dark horse by about 4 teams. So a surprise package.
Part of teams who are decent.
Yeah.
Uruguay. They're going to be an inauspicious group stage, and second round game, they're probably, if they top their group, they're going to fancy themselves. Maybe kind of
Uruguay, Portugal, provided the groups pan out the way we think, will actually be a really good game.
Yeah, I think so. And then you're sneaking yourselves into a quarter final, so you never know really. I mean, dark horse, I suppose, in terms of if you're looking for somebody to get to the quarter-finals, maybe you're not expecting Colombia. Maybe. As I said, there's very few teams who you're going to anticipate you think are terrible, and they come from absolutely nowhere.
I would have said prior to events not that long in the memory, Egypt to get at least out of the group.
Yeah, I mean that's going to be.
I still think they have a shot, but only because I don't know the extent to the injury with Salazar.
It's going to be massive battles, but it's kind of flipped from that kind of group lineup. Morocco would be your dark horse name, maybe getting yourself to a quarter-final place, possibly.
It would be huge for them, and I remember very vividly the difference in the Algeria squad and mentality and sort of the vibe around the team from 2010 to 2014. We joked about the 0-0 with England, but in 2014, they're actually quite exciting. And the game they got knocked out, I seem to recall, I quite like it when you get not just the same old sides over and over again. There's always some sort of injection of, it's a global tournament, and when you get like just Europe and South America, it doesn't feel quite as global as it does when you get like the Asian side doing really well or the African side doing really well.
Yeah, I mean, you need it a bit mixed up. I mean, I suppose that's the aim of getting 48 teams in the World Cup. Future forwards, but
I look forward to complaining about that, and then when it actually happens, much like the Euros, going, it wasn't too bad actually.
There's going to be so much preliminary stuff when it goes on. It's like preliminary games will be exciting. When it gets to the nitty gritty of like the last 24-16, it'll just be the same again.
Yeah, fair enough. We haven't actually spoke too much about this now, so we're going to get onto this. England then.
Quarterfinals.
I think that's a fair shout, and I think it's weird how this has gone full circle. When we were growing up, it was very much, and I think this is off the back of a run of tournaments, not necessarily back to back, but Italia 90 and Euro 96 of like, this is a building momentum, we're getting closer and closer.
Yeah, I know that was then, but it could be again.
Yes. Do you know the really hurtful thing about that? Is that in my head it's like 30 years of hurt. It's now closer to, if not above 50.
52 now.
Jesus Christ. Half a century.
Yep.
I still don't think that song will change. It won't be...
Well, they got like the France 98 version, haven't they?
Yes.
Where it's like no more years of hurt, so they kind of flipped that. But
I like the fact that after 2 years we went, we can't keep adding this up, because it'll get ridiculous.
But the Euro 96 version, the original, the best.
Yes. And then so you come to this iteration, and I don't think it's about even necessarily winning it as much, because you got like the old school 90s generation and then the early 2000s of the golden generation, and it was like we get to the quarters and we throw a shit fit about getting to the quarters, and it'd be like, we should be getting further. Yeah. And now it's like if we get to the quarters, it'll be heralded as like the greatest achievement. Yeah,
we've done really well. We get to the quarters. I think we're a quarter-final side.
I think we've always been a quarter-final side.
We have, but I think in previous incarnations in the middle of last decade, you'd probably say slightly underachieving for quarter-finals.
Yeah.
Whereas now, I think that is it. We've done really well. I'm going to say a semi-final. That is going to be it's going to be like Italia 90. No one expected the team to do anything, which is similar now. There was press controversy in the build-up to Italia 90 about, I think in that circumstance the manager was leaving. He announced he was leaving for the tournament, all written off. Similar with Sterling. Now, obviously, the scapegoat, not in any way because he's black. So, group mentality of the team, not expected a lot. Bitty group. Then, if you got to the semi-final, that completely changed English football in a sense. Like, it's now a game we can all support or get behind.
This is the thing as well. I think you can agree or disagree about the quality of the side, and I think it's probably slightly better than you. But that's neither here nor there. What I think can't be underestimated or can't be looked over is like how likeable this squad is. I think it's the first squad since like the 90s where I've actually been like, do you know what, these are all right.
I think it's because there's like no massive big characters in it really. Like everyone seems like roughly on the same level, and I think for this England team, like I think if we got to the semi-final, it'd be similar to Italian 90 because whoever we get in the quarter-finals, we're gonna have to beat a good team. Morocco, they're dominating. We're gonna have to beat a big team, and I suppose from a personal perspective, I hope we get to the semi-final simply because the last semi-final we got to, Italia 90, I don't remember that World Cup. But apparently, my dad asked me if I wanted to watch that game with him, and I said no. I wanted to watch Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles instead. So he watched it on his own. So if we get to the semi-final, Dad, I'm going to come back and right that wrong. 28 years. You're
going to watch the Turtles instead?
Man,
with Megan Fox.
Man, Donatello.
He's dominating. He did have everything. I think the thing I would say though is you touched upon it then. Just the idea of the squad, this, that, the other. Sterling is the thing that gets me, and I'm by far not exactly England's greatest champion in terms of like I'm not going to big them up. I haven't been allowed to care since like Hodgson's been in charge for the last 6 years, so I haven't been allowed to go near it. Whereas now it's like I really want him to shove it down their throat so badly. I really, really want him to do something where it's like, fuck you, I'm so sick of this.
Yeah, I mean, I've really talked about it on the podcast before. Treatment for him is a disgrace. He's had a strength of character to kind of come through now. It's probably arguably his best season as a professional coming on. Hasn't quite transposed that to the English stage yet, but all it takes is a game in the World Cup.
I also say I do worry for his sake that I don't think the setup is built for him. And I don't think we're going to see the best out of him or get the best out of him.
It's not entirely because we haven't got an entirely fluid front three, which at Man City, obviously you have.
No, I mean if you gave me Harry Kane with Rashford and Sterling either side, it gives you an option of pace either side, but it's not exactly going to be alternating as you said.
No, I mean it's the two wingers are going to be switching. I mean Kane.
He ain't moving.
No, I mean
not from Tottenham nor from.
No. Taking corners aside, he's not going on the side of the pitch. No,
and it is. I think there's there is an option to say that like you could go with different setups and this and that and the other, but like I think for the squad we've got, I don't necessarily disagree with it in that sense because Harry Kane just scores.
You need a goal scorer. I mean, I suppose he's a much more complete player than Lineker. But he's the closest we've had to Lineker. As in, like, you watch, he does a lot more than Lineker. Lineker was like the goal, 6-yard box, get it to him, he's going to score. Kane does a bit more outside the box scoring goals. But Kane still suffers from a similar thing of, you don't really know what he does apart from score goals, which is brilliant.
From a tactics perspective, it's really hard to, play around him.
Yeah.
But he's got to be there.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's difficult. It's a difficult balance to get. I think, as you said, though, the quarters is the aim. I want to get through that just because I can't remember the last time we collectively, and I don't even necessarily include me in this because I don't care too much, just felt happy after a knockout game.
Yeah, I mean, I think the last knockout game we won in normal time was 2006, I think. Maybe even.
Was that the Trinidad game?
That was a group stage Trinidad game. I think actually maybe 2002. Ecuador, I think, was it?
That's the one I remember. Yeah.
That was the last knockout game we won.
Yeah. Jesus, it's been hard.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
Come on, Phil Jones.
He's. I suspect he may pull a face at some point. And hilarious, almost Muppet-like face.
Yep. And that's when he's on the bench.
Yeah.
I don't think he gets on the pitch.
All that aside, then, I think, are you even slightly more optimistic going in after having gone through it all than you were at the start?
Well, about the World Cup in general?
Yeah.
Right? Well, I suppose, talking about the merits, I mean, obviously, as we said at the start, I'm going to try and watch as many games as we can. I think it's going to be a decent tournament. I don't think it'll go down as a classic, but I agree it will be the end of an era. kind of football moving forward will be completely different with the expanded tournament and different teams and different technological advances. But I think just because there's no one knockout team who you think are going to steamroll over everyone, it's going to be a competitive tournament, and hopefully,
competitive doesn't lead to draws.
Yeah, I mean, as we said earlier, there's a lack of surprise just because many of the players you already know, just because of the modern kind of following all the leagues and all that. But
even with that, there comes a bit of intrigue of there's no surprise in who they are. The surprise is going to be which one of them or which few of them turn up.
Yeah, and hopefully a lot of them will turn up to make the next month very enjoyable.
Indeed, and what is going to make the next month very enjoyable is that we have an announcement to make. What you've got to look forward to, not only in the World Cup, is we'll be with you, the Fools Remain podcast. And that's going to consist of probably somewhere in the region of 10 to 15 or 20 minutes, maybe even longer if it's a big game. But we'll be with you every single day.
Intense.
The games are going on, not every single day. When there's an off day, I need to take an off day. But when the World Cup is on, we'll be with you. And it will be previews or bullshit talking after the game or something. You will hear from us more regularly than our significant others, potentially.
Your quota of bullshit is going to be regularly topped up.
Indeed. So you have that to look forward to. I hope what you can do is contain your excitement from now until then. But if you can't, then just get yourself checked out by a medical professional. Make sure you're all right. We don't want anyone. The listening figures, we need to make sure everyone's in their peak shape, not just for the World Cup, but for the listening figures itself.
Yep. So no one left behind.
No. This has been the Beermat official World Cup preview. Thank you for listening. We'll catch you in a few days with the opening game.